Welcome to Real Talks with Pinks. Thank you so much for the love we've been receiving on the channel. Please do keep subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing the video. So today we have Ts'olo on the show. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself to our guests, and then I'll introduce the topic of the day.
First of all, let me be thankful for this rare opportunity that you've afforded me. My name is Ts'olo Seutloali. I'm a married man, middle-aged. That's about it, yeah.
Congratulations. I know you just got married last year.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about challenges of growing up as a pastor's kid. So throughout the show, we'll be saying a PK, so don't worry, we mean a pastor's kid. So Ts'olo, let's get straight onto it. So what are some of the challenges that you think you had growing up as a pastor's kid? I know your father is quite a renowned man, a man of God from Leribe. So what were some of those challenges?
Well, there's numerous challenges, but I must say those vicissitudes are put by societal norms.
Okay.
And the church. Especially growing up in a Pentecostal church denomination. There's a lot of pressures that befall us as pastors' kids. First of all, you have to be somewhat like an angelic host. You're not prone to mistakes, just like any other kid. You don't have ample time with family because your folks are dealing with different kind of people and their problems, and they don't really have time to, dissect issues of life. When you're about to get into your teenage or puberty, issues are not really discussed. And sometimes by default, you're supposed to be pushed into certain activities at church. Automatically, somewhat being like a pastor yourself. So you assume a lot of responsibilities, but there's no ample mentorship when it comes to how life is done, And eventually you find yourself not being a God pleaser, but your parent pleaser. You get to fear your folks more than God himself.
Yes.
And once you have a chance now, because we cocooned, once you go out of it, that's when now you see most pastors' kids moving from prominence to notoriety, because now they just let loose because they weren't able to live life as just normal human beings. So that's a crux of the matter.
Yes, you touched a very important thing. We sort of, as society, as the church, we hold this angelic view that pastors' kids are supposed to grow up in a certain way, and we don't allow them to be like other kids. Yeah. So would you say you struggle to find your identity because the church and the society were expecting you to be like your father?
Well, somewhat. Teenage years. My folks were very supportive, though.
Okay.
They were quite liberal. Very understanding. But I must say, like, for instance, when I was in high school, I wasn't prone to mistakes, because now I remember one French teacher of mine saying, imagine a pastor's kid doing this. So I wasn't taken as my own self, solo, I was put in within the base of my parents, and so that was profoundly detrimental. Yeah.
So I know, as a human being, obviously you have to have your own identity aside from that of your father. I'm assuming you're a Christian, so just asking, how do you deal with controversial scriptures or somewhat not agreeing with the church or your father?
Well, I'm my own man, and I've got my value system, of which most of it was influenced by my folks. But right is right, wrong is wrong. So that's just the gist, So I deal with them as they come. We're imperfect, but our imperfection makes us unique. So yeah.
No, that is fine. I want to say, when you're talking about the challenges at first, let me just go back a bit. You mentioned a lot of things, so I want you to delve more into some of the things that you are still struggling with. I don't know if that's still the same when you were young and now. Do you still struggle with this identity thing? Are you still supposed to assume a certain role in church, even though now you feel like you are older and you're your own person? Is there still that pressure? Is it throughout your life or it goes away at one point?
Funny enough, yes. I just got married a couple of months ago, I think about 6 months ago. And I married an Anglican. So, my dad being a very prominent pastor in the cycle of Pentecostal churches and whatever, there was a lot of judgment, a lot of talks, against my marriage and my choice. Because, there's a set of standard that people just correlate you being a pastor's kid or a church folk with a certain lady in church, and they think, no, maybe you'll get married to some girls. And I know some people were very disappointed. So that's the problem, the fact that we don't take Christianity on the basis personal relationship with God, but now on the basis of where do you go to church, and there's a thin line between self-righteousness and Christianity. So those were just, it wasn't a train smash, but it was a bit of a challenge. But, well, in my own right, I had the courage to decide. So, yeah, I actually made that decision.
That was going to be my next question, to ask if you found it hard to find a partner, because now the church is expecting you to marry a certain person. Because I know in Pentecostal churches, as we call them in Lesotho, there's that expectation that marry in church, if not in church, like a similar church. So do you find it so hard to find a partner because now there's this small nuances that, he's supposed to marry here, not elsewhere?
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. Well, I've been up and about. I had my fair share of ups and downs.
Just like a PK. I don't know any PK you didn't have.
So, I did a lot of good and a lot of bad. So, I think people had given up on me. Although I had grown up to decide, okay, now I want to get married, because you feel that urge and you structured now, you're now very serious and mature. But the problem was that there's that facade, the picture that is painted about you when you had a pathological behavior which is bad. So, people had given up on me with marriage and all that. So I was just in my own world, and but I came around. Yes, I came around because, first and first, people don't say Ts'olo Seutloali, but Ts'olo first of all. So you can't be your own person. And other issues is that there's financial implications when you see the strain within your folks, because they get the believers or the brethren can even punish pastors, because they're dependent.
Okay.
They're dependent. There's their opinions, so they're dependent on tithes and offerings. So obviously, sometime it's a bad month, and there's hustle. And my folks are intellectuals; they went to school, but my dad ascribed to his calling. So I really had a problem with, this calling. Why do we have to, because for him, it was even worse because his father was also a pastor, and he struggled, and he knew the struggles. So I was wondering if, oh God, am I going to get a calling too? Having seen this. But we survived.
I know, I hear you. You survived, and I must say you turned out well. You married my friend, so So, a little digression. I want to ask you, what's your view on the church and not dealing with some societal issues? Obviously, I'm big on issues of GBV, and I know they happen everywhere, but we don't see the church saying anything. As Ts'olo, not in the Demorut, because you are Ts'olo Hanko Demorut. What is your view on the church not dealing with violence and
Yes, I think it's a very sensitive issue, but I think that the church has to act now,
Okay.
I think we have been somewhat irresponsible when it comes to those sensitive issues. And I think it's about time that now we take a stand. It's really sad because even pastors themselves have their own escapades. Even the people in the forefront have their own problems and challenges. And some pastors' wives maybe are still prone to that abuse and subject to the abuse and gender-based violence, and it's very sad. And I think we must just be realistic about issues and make workshops, put up forums and fraternities that would really help people instead of just saying it will be done and dusted in prayer. It should just be prayer with action and initiative. I think that will be very, very important. So I think the church can start now. Not only that, but also even societal issues, community, based issues that not only the church is on the receiving end, but it gives back to the society. Because the Bible says, what is that? Because when you portray what Christ is, it's not only you just preaching the gospel, but also we should reach out with the level we have. And that effort would be really captivating to the most. And some people who backlash the church or who have a very certain picture of what the church is and really have a disdain and disregard for the church, they would eventually get captivated and eventually those souls will be won by those minor gestures that are pivotal.
Definitely. I think acting is much better than talking in this day and age. So when we wrap up, Ts'olo, what do you say to society, to other pastors' kids that are still struggling with identity? Because I know a lot of pastors' kids, like you said at the start, they struggle with their identity because we have this expectation on them.
Yes, I think we're living in a day and age where now, there's technology, there's everything. They should find solace in God, yes, first of all, but also be realistic about issues and be honest with themselves. Identity crisis is very terrible, because you try to custom yourself and put a picture of what you're really not. You'd even try to put up stuff that your folks are doing something better than being pastors because that occupation seems not right. There's a lot of judgment. That's another issue because your folks are supposed to be perfect and they are prominent. So any escapade which goes down, it's sad. Everyone, it's the tip of the tongue of everyone, and so it's painful to kids when you see your mom, your dad being, But so I'm just saying to the pastors' kids, just be strong. There's lots of people who are suicidal. Just find solace in God. Just be strong. Keep pushing. Take life as it comes. And but be realistic about issues concerning your folks. I think one of the things that we never had an open session with our parents, so much that we can dissect real issues of life. This is why you find it the most bad thing or detrimental issue when a pastor's kid has a child out of wedlock and stuff like that. Because some issues are not directed. And the dating issues also. Because now, when you're just dating and people orchestrate a union, it's not right. You find that people sometimes don't have chemistry, but they should be given, some advices on how to date and stuff like that. Because, we never dated much in our churches. It was bad. Once you date, it's courtship, people are married. They have never known each other. They never had time to go out on a date, for lunch and everything. So, you do it behind doors, and because you're scared that you might be taken as a backslider, or so the church judges you and everything. This is why you find that they get into something that they never bargained for.
Yes.
And then you find that there's problems prevailing in marriages, that cheating. It paints a bad image of church. Yeah. So we have to regroup, we have to restructure it and address real issues. Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that, the issue of dating. I thank you for mentioning it, because I was going to ask how did you deal with it, but I think you've already answered. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Ts'olo.
My pleasure.
This really means a lot. As a pastor's kid by default, because my grandfather was a pastor. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. I am dressed by the beautiful Titana. You can find them at www.titana.com, and I'm dressing them in nice, different ways throughout the episodes. So thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.
How beautiful.